All right, let's dive into this Taiwan Travelogue. From the looks of its Goodreads page, it seems like everyone's buzzing about it. And you know me and historical novels, so...
Well, get ready for a treat. And I'm not just talking about the food, though that's definitely a big part of it.
Oh, is it? Okay, now you've got me even more intrigued. Give me the rundown. What's this novel all about?
So picture this. 1930s Taiwan under Japanese occupation. You've got Aoyama Chizuko. She's a Japanese novelist, and she's just landed on the island ready to soak up all things Taiwan, especially the
A
food.
novelist exploring through food, huh? That's a unique angle.
It is, and she's not alone on this adventure. She's got a local guide, Chizuru, a young Taiwanese woman, acting as her interpreter and, you could say, her cultural compass.
So we've got a clash of cultures, a historical backdrop. I'm sensing a lot of potential for interesting dynamics here.
Oh, absolutely. And their relationship, it goes beyond the professional, you see. Shizuko, she finds herself increasingly drawn to Chizuru. It starts to blur the lines, their roles, and, well, everything.
Okay, now that's adding some spice to the mix. But I have a feeling it's not just a simple love story, right?
You're right on the mark. A lot of the reviewers, they highlight how the novel weaves together food and history. It's not just about describing delicious dishes. It's about using food as a lens to understand Taiwan's identity under Japanese rule.
That's fascinating. So each dish, each ingredient, it tells a story.
Exactly. It's like a culinary language, revealing cultural fusion, adaptations, even hints of resistance.
Wow, I'm already feeling hungry just thinking about it. Okay, this is definitely going on my must-read list. But wait a minute, isn't there a twist to all this? Something about the book being, well, not quite what it seems.
You've heard about that, have you? Get ready for a curveball. Taiwan Travelogue. It initially presented itself as, get this, a rediscovered Japanese text.
You're kidding.
Nope. Translated into Mandarin, it had readers totally convinced. It was this lost account, you see, of Taiwan under Japanese rule, but then, bam, the truth comes out. It's completely fictional.
Hold on. So we're talking about metafiction here. Okay, for those of us who don't spend all day analyzing literature.
Well, think of it as a story that's self-aware. It knows it's fiction, and it plays with that concept. Like the author's winking at you, saying, hey, we're both in on this little game.
So the author intentionally misled readers.
Yeah.
But why go through all that trouble?
It's more than just a trick. By starting with that historical facade, the author's raising questions about authenticity, about whose perspective gets privileged.
That's a good point. It makes you wonder, if we believe something's a first-hand account, are we more likely to just accept it as truth?
Exactly, and that's where the debate comes in. Some readers, they love the literary game, the challenge to our perceptions. Others, they feel it's a betrayal of trust, a step too far.
It sounds like this book really gets people talking. So we've got this Japanese novelist experiencing Taiwan, the food, the culture. There's this hint of romance. And on top of it all, this metafictional twist. But the Goodreads page, it hints at something more, doesn't it? Something about power dynamics.
Oh, absolutely. We can't ignore the historical context, right? Japanese colonialism, that power imbalance, it seeps into everything, even Chizuko and Chizuru's relationship.
That makes sense.
One reviewer, they put it perfectly. There is nothing in the world more difficult to refuse than self-righteous goodwill.
Whoa, that's a heavy statement. Makes you think about how good intentions can be, well, complicated, especially when one person holds so much power over the other.
And that's the central question, isn't it? Can there be genuine friendship in a situation like that?
Chizuko, with her Japanese privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Is she truly seeing Chizuru as an equal? Or is there always that underlying power dynamic at play?
And remember, we're seeing everything through Chizuko's eyes. But what about Chizuru? What's her experience of all this? And that's where the metafiction comes back in. It makes us question everything we've read so far. It's not about accepting Chizuko's perspective as the only truth. It's about recognizing that every story has its limitations, its bias.
Okay, my mind's officially blown wide open. This novel, it's like a puzzle box, each layer revealing something new. And I can't wait to see what other insights this Goodreads page has to offer.
Well, let's keep digging, shall we?
Lead the way. I'm all ears.
Now, about those translators' notes you mentioned earlier.
Ah, yes. Those. They just seem like another layer of complexity in an already pretty complex story.
Well, they are, and it's a brilliant move by the author, really, because remember, initially the book was presented as this translated work, so naturally you'd expect these notes to be purely academic, right? Dry, factual, all that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But here's the kicker. They're not. They're completely fictional, too.
Wait, even the notes are part of this metafiction game. This author's on another level.
They're not just boring footnotes, they actually weave in references to shifting political landscapes in Taiwan, adding this whole layer of historical commentary that further blurs the lines between reality and fiction. It's like the author's constantly reminding us that even history itself is open to interpretation.
It's like a story within a story within a story. I mean, it's making my head spin a little, but in a good way.
And that's what makes it so thought-provoking. It's not just about enjoying the narrative, it's about actively engaging with it, questioning what we believe, how we perceive history, who gets to tell those stories.
You know what strikes me? How different readers are focusing on different aspects of the book.
Oh, absolutely. Some are completely captivated by the food descriptions, almost tasting each dish as they read. Others are drawn to that exploration of colonial power dynamics, how it impacts personal relationships.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Like, we're all looking at the same painting, but seeing something completely different.
That's the beauty of literature, I think. It allows for those multiple interpretations, enriching the experience for everyone.
One thing that stood out to me was how some reviewers felt this novel goes beyond. You know, that typical oppressor versus oppressed narrative we often see with colonialism.
Right, it's easy to fall into those binary traps.
Yeah.
But Taiwan Travelogue, it encourages a more nuanced understanding.
Like, there's room for empathy, for connection, even within that historical context.
Exactly. It doesn't shy away from the injustices of colonialism, but it acknowledges the complexities of human relationships that exist within those systems.
It's a reminder that history isn't always black and white. There are shades of gray, different perspectives, individual stories that defy easy categorization.
And the fact that the central relationship is between two women adds another layer to all of this.
Right, they're both navigating their own identities within a patriarchal society on top of the colonial context.
Their relationship becomes a microcosm of those larger power dynamics at play. How gender, culture, history, it all intersects to shape individual lives.
It makes you wonder about Chizuko and Chizuru's individual journeys, doesn't it?
It does. And it's interesting how we experience everything through Chizuko's eyes. But what about Chizuru's thoughts, her feelings? How does she navigate this complex relationship?
Especially knowing the historical and political realities of her time.
And here, that metafictional aspect becomes even more intriguing, because by revealing the fictional nature of the account, the author forces us to reevaluate everything. It's not about accepting Chizuko's perspective as the definitive truth anymore. It's about recognizing that every narrative has its limitations, its biases.
This novel is full of surprises, that's for sure. But at its core, it's a personal story, isn't it? What happens to Chizuko and Chizuru?
That's the question that stays with you long after you finish the book. And I think it's a question that each reader has to answer for themselves. The author leaves us with ambiguity, inviting us to ponder the possibilities, draw our own conclusions.
So it's a journey of self-discovery, not just for the characters, but for the reader as well.
Precisely. And that's what makes Taiwan Travelogue such a powerful reading experience.
Now, I can't help but wonder, what about Chizuru's side of the story? We've talked a lot about Chizuko's perspective, but what did the reviewers say about Chizuru's experience?
That's a great point. While the story is told from Chizuko's point of view, there are definitely glimpses into Chizuru's world. Many reviewers highlight her strength, her intelligence, her deep connection to Taiwan.
That's so important, to see her as more than just a reflection of Chizuko's gaze.
Exactly, and they point out moments where Chizuru subtly challenges Chizuko's assumptions about Taiwan. It shows her agency, her ability to resist and maintain her identity within that colonial context.
It adds another layer to their relationship, doesn't it? Showing that it's not just about power. Chizuru is an active participant, shaping the course of their interactions.
It speaks to the author's skill in creating such nuanced characters. Even though we primarily experience things through Chizuko, we're reminded that Chizuru has her own inner life.
It makes me wonder what Chizuru's version of this story would be like. What would she say about Chizuko, about their relationship, about life under Japanese rule?
That's a fascinating thought. Perhaps that's part of the author's intention, to make us yearn for those untold stories, to recognize that there are always multiple perspectives, each holding its own truth.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've explored history, culture, identity, the power of storytelling, all through this one novel.
And it highlights how literature can challenge us, make us think differently about the world.
Speaking of challenges, what about the ending? Do the reviewers give any clues about how this story wraps up?
They're pretty tight-lipped about the ending, actually, which, just adds to the intrigue.
I guess some things are best left for the reader to discover.
Exactly. It seems the author wants us to experience those final moments firsthand, to fully grasp the weight of the choices these characters make.
Well, after all this, Taiwan Travelogue is at the top of my to-read list. I'm eager to get lost in the story myself and see how it all comes together.
I have a feeling you won't be disappointed. And for our listeners who are feeling just as intrigued, I highly recommend checking it out. It's a journey that promises to be both thought-provoking and, well, delicious.
It's amazing, isn't it? We've been talking about this book, Taiwan Travelogue, for a while now. And it's making me realize it's about so much more than just a physical trip. It's like it captures that feeling of any kind of journey, immersing yourself in something new, letting it change you.
You're absolutely right. It's about that transformative power of experiencing something different, not just for Chizuko, the novelist, moving through Taiwan, but for the reader, too, going through that journey of self-discovery right along with her.
And that journey, well, it's rarely a straight line, is it?
Definitely not. There are bumps along the way, challenges, moments that push you out of your comfort zone.
Especially in this book, with the historical context, the cultural clashes, and of course the whole complexity of Chizuko and Chizuru's relationship.
It's like a labyrinth full of twists and turns, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. And as you navigate it, you're not just learning about Taiwan in the 1930s. You're learning about yourself, about how we connect with each other, about the human experience as a whole.
And the way the author uses food to explore all these themes, it's brilliant. It's not just about those mouth-watering descriptions, though they definitely add to the experience, but it's how food becomes this bridge between cultures, a connection to history, a powerful way to express identity.
It's like every bite tells a story. Every flavor has a history behind it. But it also highlights that power imbalance between Chizuko and Chizuru, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, Chizuko is the outsider, the guest, always receiving. While Chizuru is the one sharing her knowledge, her culture, her food.
That's a very insightful observation. It subtly reflects the dynamics of colonialism, where one culture often takes from another.
This deep dive has been so thought-provoking. We've covered so much ground, from history to culture, identity, storytelling. But it leaves me with one big question, and I'd love to hear your take on it. Imagine you're Chizuru in that complex relationship with Chizuka. Knowing the historical and political weight of everything, would you have made different choices?
That's a tough one, and I think the author intentionally leaves that open for us to grapple with. There's no easy answer, no right or wrong in a situation as nuanced as that. And that's what makes this novel so compelling. It doesn't offer simple solutions. It challenges us to confront those uncomfortable truths, to embrace the complexity of it all.
It's a reminder that understanding goes beyond just reading a story. It's about engaging with it, questioning our own assumptions, allowing it to change us.
You've summed it up perfectly. And for our listeners who are feeling just as captivated by Taiwan Travelogue as we urge you to seek out the novel yourself, embark on your own literary adventure.
It's a journey worth taking. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.